When it comes to the best biosecurity and biosafety protocols to help your business thrive during these challenging times of face masks, viruses, and gloves, schools, businesses, sports arenas, hotels, and even churches are turning to America's top COVID-19 experts.
Providing is a solution that has the ability to change the way we fight COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Socrates Garrett, Chief Operating Officer for SRS Inc., the single source solution for biosecurity protocols. SRS will ensure that your business does not shut down.
What separates SRS from other companies? We understand that if you control your environment, you control the spread of COVID-19.
SRS, the one source solution.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome to We Believe TV. We are inspired by bold and spirited believers ready to adopt an innovative approach for speaking the word so that others' faith might grow from hearing the word, which gives rise to hope. Watch your church worship service live, our collection of faith-based programming, as well as original content, right here on We Believe TV. How and when you want, anytime and anywhere you want. Sign up now.
WeBelieve.tv.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another week of BMA Radio Show. I am your host, Dr. J, and we have Pastor James Hull with us here today. How you doing, Pastor?
Hey, Doc, I'm doing just fine. Your audio up a little bit, but I'm doing just fine.
That's good. Well, we're glad to have you. Did you have a good Christmas?
It was okay. We didn't have as many folks in the house as we normally would. We normally have about 20 people in the house, but we only had about 5. So it was a little different. That's something that, we haven't had in a long time. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that my children are all well, and I'm grateful that we ate too much.
Sounds good. Well, I actually spent Christmas alone. Me and my family actually had a Zoom. We played games. I hosted a Zoom for us, and it was fun. And so we're trying to be safe with these numbers skyrocketing like they are.
Exactly. Same here.
Great. Well, we have a great show lined up for you all today. Our last show for 2020. 2020 has been one hell of a year.
Forgive and forget. That was my sermon today.
Forgive and forget.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to continue talking about contracts for black businesses, as well as the BMA municipal project.
Yeah.
Mr. Garrett on last week was saying that the only way that we could obtain economic freedom is we have more contracts for black businesses. And so, I did a little research. There was a federal study released in 2017 by the Minority Business Development. And pretty much the study says that, most of the people who are in charge of these contracts are white people, but that's not the case for here in Jackson. But the study found that they hire who they know. And you have about 11 million minority-owned business. Now that's including, when they say minority, that includes white women who own business as well. So it's not just Black-owned business. And they gave an example of Massachusetts. Massachusetts had a 24% of minority participation, and that number went down. And they lost about $135 million in minority contracts. And one of the problems that they noted is that it's little, even though they passed a motion to make sure a certain percentage of those contracts go to minority business, there's little of no one doing any oversight of that. And so that's one of the things that we have to do here. We have to first get that plan in motion and make sure that someone are holding people accountable.
But Doc, we got to put this in context, and that's good research. Thank you for that. We've got to put this in context. I mean, just think about this. On the one hand, voting rights are being suppressed. On the other hand, educational opportunities for minority students are being limited. Public education is being put on the back burner to funnel money to private education. On the other hand, there is a concerted effort to keep expanding Medicare out of Mississippi. So there is an institutional problem here, and there is a systemic problem to limit and marginalize minority participation in every element of society. So we shouldn't be surprised that minority businesses are suffering the same fate. And there is no oversight. I'm glad you brought that up. So yes, we talked last week about numerical minorities and racial minorities.
Right.
Numerical minorities would include white women and Black female-owned businesses too, to be fair. But in terms of racial minorities, there is a whole systematic approach to ignore, to marginalize, to make sure that these people don't get a part of any kind of pie. So, the first instance, I think we need to recognize that minority contracts, the lack of minority contracts don't exist in and of themselves. They don't not exist in and of themselves. They aren't just out there by themselves. In every segment of the larger society, there is this effort to marginalize minority-owned businesses, minority students. So, we just got to put that in context and make sure that we understand what's going on.
And we definitely have to make sure we do something about it and speak more to it. Tell me your thoughts about this. What do you think about if we get business leaders, business owners throughout the state of Mississippi to write letters to, let's start with the mayor and the city council, outlining first and foremost that we want a certain percentage of minority contracts to go to, for contracts to go to Black business owners. I'm trying to practice not saying minority. How many business owners do you think we can get to sign that letter?
Well, I think it's a great idea. First of all, I do think that that Socrates, kind of pointed us in the right direction last week when we talked about, just the education component. And I think that one of the things that we've got to do, first of all, is, we got to do some basic homework here. We've got to identify those people. We've got to make sure that they are properly educated on what the needs are in the state. And then we've got to make sure that we can encourage them to write that letter. And I think it's possible. I think that's a very good approach. But, you know, and I shouldn't say but, however, but is so appropriate many times. It's hard to get us on the same page. And it's hard to get us on the same page for the same reasons. And this might be the thing that does it. Because if we can convince our leaders, our church leaders, our community leaders, our activists, if we can convince these folks that the thing that's going to move our communities forward is minority business development, minority contracts, economic development in the Black community, then I think we have an opportunity to get everybody on board for the same thing. A rising tide raises all boats. And we've just got to convince folks that if we can raise the level of the water, everybody is going to raise their boats too.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you all for listening. We want you all to be involved in this conversation. Give us a call, 601-948-5950. Again, that number is 601-948-5950. Join the conversation. We are talking about how do we obtain and sustain contracts for Black businesses. And so you definitely made a great point that, you know, we have to do some research. And if we get people in different cities, if we start with just say Jackson, Hattiesburg, Tupelo, Biloxi, you know, some of those major cities within the state of Mississippi. And of course, the people in those different cities, they know the needs of that area. And so if we can start there and get people to put pressure on the government, the city government, you know, like we were saying last week, they don't know the power that they have dispersing these funds.
I mean, not only, you know, and you're right. I don't want to diminish that point right there or look past it. Not only do they not know the power of their ability to disperse funds and to have sway over sharing wealth in the Black community, but many of our leaders, many of our pastors don't understand the power that they have to put leverage on these public officials.
We got caller, hold that point, Pastor. Sure. All right, caller, you on the air. What's your question or comment?
How you doing, Dr. J and Pastor? This is Malcolm Johnson.
I'm better than blessed, Malcolm.
Melton, how are you?
You so blessed because you're blessed to be on the radio with the man of God. You can't get no better than that on Sunday.
Look, I'm a woman of God, and you are a man of God.
Yeah, but his title is pastor. You're a doctor.
We all have a responsibility, whether we know it or not. But
yeah, I'm having fun with you. Well, let me say this, Pastor. One thing we must do, people that is not being fair with the in community, meaning the Black, not just the Black, but anybody on the inside of the city or the county or whatever that's not being fair with Black businesses. What we have to do is solve that at the election. On election day, you know, people will run in office and say, when I become this, you're going to become this, or they even have other slogans that, you know, minority participation. But we had a guy came in where it used to be that minorities had to be 50% in any contract over a certain amount of money. I think it was 40%, the EBA or something, EBB or something. He came in and removed it. Do you hear me, Dr. J? Where minorities didn't have a chance to make a dime, and then put $38 million in Hempill's pocket. The same people that's trying to take the airport and took the Rankin County treatment from Jackson. This is the same people and gave them $38 million this year alone in contracts out of the city. So what happened is when Christmas time comes and holidays time, those people going back to Rankin County.
Right.
Now you're looking at the little small Black businesses on. I'm just going to use Mr. Gary and other people calling saying, we need you to donate something for the children for Christmas. So what you have, Dr. J, is our people really just been sold out by somebody that portrayed to be one of us. I didn't mean to go that deep into it, but I wanted to I want to just be me and talk about it. But that's what we have, and what we got to do is get to the poll and do what we need to do. Now, if we're gonna have a black man gonna give it all to the white man, and ain't nobody gonna move up but that one black person, we might as well just go get a white man. What's the difference? He gonna give it to his people, and it's gonna go out of Jackson. So we might as well do the same doggone thing. Y'all have a good day, and I'm gonna listen to y'all.
I appreciate you, Pastor.
Thank you, Brother Johnson. I agree with you 100%. We are not using one of the things that we did. I've just finished two documentary series, in fact. One documentary series is entitled By Any Means Necessary, the life and times of the civil rights movement in the during the Godfather of Harlem. And basically what the series is talking about is the civil rights movement through the eyes of those that live in Harlem during the time of Bumpy Johnson. And Bumpy Johnson, as everybody knows, Denzel Washington played in the movie Gangster, American Gangster. And another documentary I've been watching is a documentary entitled King, which is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I think the thing that I heard most that is a thread through those two documentaries is we really should have been pushing for more than just voting rights. When you look at it, as a child, I'm 68 years old. As a child, 60 years ago, the only thing that we were concerned about was voting rights. Now that we have voting rights, we're still not exercising voting rights to the extent that it's making a serious difference in our community. Brother Johnson is exactly right. We need to develop a manifesto, or we need to develop some kind of a document. I know we've talked a little bit about the contract with America that Bishop Crudup has tried to help develop. But we've got to get these folks, when they come around our neighborhoods asking for our votes, we need to have a list of items. And on that list of items is, what are you going to do about minority contracts? And if you are going to do anything about minority contracts, we need to elect somebody, or at least find a candidate who will. And the other thing that I commend Brother Johnson about saying is, which in theory is absolutely correct, in practice is not what we want. But in theory, if Black candidates are not going to speak out and work on the best interests of their people, then we need to get candidates who are not Black that will. And we've got the numbers. Without a doubt, we have the numbers. We've got to be able to translate those numbers into real power in our communities. Doc?
You're definitely right. We definitely have to do something different. And when you talk about voting, I got on a vote shirt up under my coat. But when you talk about voting, a lot of people, we do a good job of getting people to go out and vote, but we do a poor job of educating people on how to vote. And, a lot of organizations, exactly, a lot of organizations, they can't tell people who to vote for. And I come on my page and other platforms that I have, I said, they can't tell you, but I can. And I think that's a big problem. A lot of people, they don't know who to vote for and why they're voting for the people they're voting for. They go off what they see other people saying. They go off, we got a caller. Hold on one moment. Hey, caller, you on the air. What's your question or comment?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Do we necessarily have to, I know since integration, the civil rights movement, we feel that we got to, but do we necessarily have to vote for Black folks? Do we necessarily have to vote for city councils, members? I know that most of those Black cities that is run by majority Black folks, mayor and city council, they look like third world country. Most of all the white folks getting their contract. I know last city council meeting, I was sitting in down there. I got mad and didn't go back. I think they were voting on moving some saw Gary bid is so doggone low. I thought maybe he was just doing it for the hell of it. But the other folks from Cross River bid it, and they gave it to them. But saw Gary bid so low, they come back and say, well, we ain't got to give it to the lowest bidder. I'll hang up the list.
Pastor, you have a response?
Oh man, so much was packed into that, and I'm with him. You know, I'm thinking about running for the city council again here in Tupelo, and I attend city council meetings and I just get disgusted because I don't see anything at my city council meeting that speaks to Black folks. And Doc, one of the things that we've got to do, and I've made it up in my mind, and I think I've gotten better over the years, but I've made it up in my mind that in 2021, I'm going to be intentional about Black folks. Okay. I was telling you about this documentary. One of the things that one of the people who was being interviewed said, when Curtis Mayfield started, you know, Curtis Mayfield was really on the cusp of protest music. And when Curtis Mayfield started writing his protest songs, he started calling people's names. And I'm going to be intentional about calling people's names, the mayor, the U.S. congressman, the senators. I live in a city with the U.S. congressman for the 1st Congressional District and one of the 2 United States senators. And I'm going to be intentional about calling their names and calling them out. But what we've got to do is not ask candidates, what are you going to do? But we've got to start asking candidates, what are you going to do for us? What are you going to do to make this list of action items that we want in our communities to come forth? We've talked about the municipal project. We've talked about economic development. I think that we need to have candidates talk about a COVID protocol, because a lot of these cities, maybe not in Tupelo, because Tupelo is doing quite well, but a lot of these cities don't even have a COVID protocol. A lot of cities don't even have a protocol where people have to wear masks inside certain buildings, inside municipal buildings. And so, you know, I think that we've got to be very intentional in making a list of what we believe is best for our communities, and then telling candidates, if you don't work toward these and make a pledge toward these and demonstrate that you are going to be on this agenda, we're not going to vote for you. Now, we can't not vote. That's one of the things that I hope the caller wasn't saying. We cannot not vote, because if we don't vote, we don't get to have a say so. We've got to just kind of choose candidates and make sure that we have candidates that we can help get out there, help raise money for, help stand on the same platforms, help to further and push the right agendas, and make sure that we get candidates that work for our best interest. That's the most important thing. But we cannot not vote.
You know, you mentioned The Godfather of Harlem. And when I tell you all, if you all haven't seen that series, go and watch that series. It really talks about not only Malcolm X, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Bumpy Johnson. I mean, it shows you the relationship of how you had these people with all different backgrounds were working together to try to improve their communities. You know, right. You had the drug dealer working with the elected officials, with the pastors. Like, so it can be done. It can be done. So definitely go check out that series.
And me saying so very quickly, this documentary puts what you said to truth. I mean, Adam Clayton Powell, I mean, there were several real footages where Malcolm X was attending Abyssinian Church. You know, he was attending church with Adam Clayton Powell Jr. There was, and they said Martin King didn't come to New York without going to Harlem and attending Abyssinian Church. So you're exactly right. These three guys were working toward the same ends from different tracks, but they worked together and they did not overstep each other. I think Malcolm just got a little ugly with Martin a couple of times, but Malcolm was a little further out there than everybody else. But you were exactly right. These three guys worked together.
Malcolm tried to warn us about this system years ago. He was talking about us voting for these people, but we still don't have the same rights as they do. So, go and listen to some of these old Malcolm speeches. He definitely was before his time.
Without a doubt. I mean, for the last week or so, I've dedicated myself to nothing but listening to Malcolm and Martin speak and rereading Dr. King's book, Why We Can't Wait. And I'm telling you, Dr. King was a bad boy. I mean, I know a lot of people look at him as a nonviolent crusader, but this cat had some very, very militant ideas. He had some cutting edge ideas. And Michael Eric Dyson's book about Martin Luther King Jr. puts him in a totally different light for me. It shows that King wasn't just a passive pushover. King was trying to do something very militant. He was trying to do something very cutting edge, but he was just trying to do it in a way that a lot of people didn't want him to do it.
Wow. So we definitely need to take notes and learn from, some of the other efforts that have been taking place. So you mentioned, I do want us to talk about the municipal project. Today I was listening to an audio book. And so I learned a lot about what happened in Georgia and the path that they took. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here in Mississippi. So tell them a little bit about the municipal project and why it's important.
Well, the municipal project is an initiative that we are developing to be a statewide initiative. When I say statewide, we will probably only end up with about 35 or 40 individuals in the initial class of the municipal project. Three basic goals. Goal number one is to identify individuals who will run for city office. And the basic city offices are mayor and city council or board of aldermen or whatever you want to call it. So that's goal number one of the municipal project, to identify folk to run for city office, municipal office. Number two, even if those folks don't run for municipal office, the end result is to get them involved in local politics. And that leads me to goal number three. Goal number three is to increase the electorate, to increase the number of people who are voting in municipal elections through awareness, through leadership development, through candidate training, and try to increase the numbers of folk who are made more aware of the need for municipal participation in the urban community, basically in the urban community. If we lament the number of people who vote in county elections and statewide elections, we ought to be shamed by the number of people that vote in municipal elections. I mean, one of the first things I heard that Wednesday morning, a couple of Tuesdays ago, only 17% of the people in Ward 2 voted that election, Doc. That's a municipal election. The other 83%, whoever they wanted to vote for, had the opportunity to elect somebody that was going to look out for their best interests. And they chose to either ignore or stay at home or just not be bothered. But municipal elections is where we train our leaders, is how we get our numbers up in the electorate, and it's how we get people involved in local government. Because local government, as Takitha Stamp says all the time, local government is where it all starts. So that's what the municipal project is trying to do.
I think that's a wonderful project. You know, we do have to attack this issue from every level. You mentioned the mayor and the city council, but not only just the mayor and the city council, the school board. You know, the school board is very important, and all these other, I mean, every level. That's one of the things that we want to do. We want to train people to be ready to go in and take those positions every level. And see, the white people have been doing this for years. They train people to hold positions. You know, they've been talking about Donald Trump being president 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jerry Falwell said, I heard Jerry Falwell say this. Jerry Falwell said, we've got to start running for the school board.
Yeah.
We've got to start running for the local county council. We got to run for every office, because once we get a toehold and start increasing our numbers, and we slept through that. We were like Rip Van Winkle. We slept through all of that. And you were exactly right. We've got to get placement in every administrative and municipal and governmental agency in our city and counties. We simply have to do it.
You know, I do want to back up a minute. You know, the caller said, why vote for Black people? You know, think about it. If you have a white person in office and a Black person in office, who do you think is likely going to vote your best interest? You know, we you know, and I know we have some bad apples out there that have made things worse. But my theory is you have people who actually run for office who are not educated on the responsibility they are taking up. You have people who are throwing their names in to run for mayor who has no idea about the complex problems that the mayor has to face. You know, these people running for office, they have never seen a $30 million budget, let alone have to work one. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these people are in over their head. They see other people running for office. They was like, oh, I can do this. If they can do this, I can do that. And it's not just that easy. You have to know how to, you know, allocate money and where that money is going and be able to be a voice and stand up when they're not doing right about the money. You know, they came out in Holmes County about the school board. Did you see that report that the state auditors listed about Holmes County? They had 23 different infractions. They overpaid the superintendent. They overpaid. Somebody wasn't doing their job. That's a leadership problem. Not only is the superintendent accountable, but the school board is accountable. How did you let this happen under your watch?
You know what it also is, Doc, and this is where we get the mix up at. You're right, it's a leadership problem, but it's also a cronyism problem. And one of the things that we've got to be courageous enough, okay? Because cats like you and I, Dr. Carthan, we make a nice living, but if I don't get rich before I die, that's fine, as long as I can do something to help my folks move along. And that's really the way I see it. If I never drive a Rolls Royce, if I never jet off to Paris, if I never take another trip to Nassau, Bahamas, I'm good. I'm good. My goal and goal, like people like you and I, is to make sure that our people are represented and taken care of. But when you have issues like what you were relating in Holmes County, that's cronyism. That is looking the other way. That is allowing people to get away with things that they shouldn't have. So we've got to be courageous enough to speak out against cronyism. We have enough Black people in offices, in agencies now, that cronyism is taking place. I'm not afraid to say it. I'll say it again. It's cronyism. Okay? It's you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Okay? And so that's the problem. The other thing is this, Doc, which I've noticed, and I've noticed a lot of this right here in Tupelo. And we've got 2 Black city councilmen. You very rarely have Black city councilmen who don't make pledges to the Black community. They are good at making pledges to the Black community. They are good at saying that they speak out for the Black community. But when those votes come down, that's when we don't see where they really are. When those votes come down, they do vote for contracts that benefit the other side. They do vote for contracts. See, Doc, if you set up a fair housing program and only 3 people in the state can participate in it because they've been qualified to participate in it, then you've already set Black contractors up to fail, right? So like Nikita was saying, when these discussions are had, when the contracts are being drafted, when they are being crafted from the very beginning, you got to have somebody in the room who's going to say, what about minority-owned businesses? And it has to be deliberate, like I said. You've got to be able to have somebody who would write into their contract, and 25% of this contract shall be awarded to minority-owned businesses as defined as. Because as you well know, when you write legislation, I used to write legislation, you have to write in the definitions.
Right.
So you can write in minority, you can write in racial minorities and write out numerical minorities. And you can still include Black women, because Black women business owners still constitute racial minorities. So the definition should be in the legislation, whether we're talking about a city legislation or county legislation or state legislation. And those definitions should be written in so that minority businesses can get a piece of the pie. And don't forget, I'm not going to forget what you said, because I think we need to work on that. We need to coalesce these leaders all across the state to write letters to their local governmental agencies, to their local mayors and city council. And
we got a call coming in.
Okay.
Hey, caller, you on the air. Turn your radio down.
Hi there.
Very good.
I was just wanted to make a comment. I've been listening, and the thing that I see, the problem with us, we are some of the smartest people in the world.
Yep.
But the problem with us, a lot of time, we want everybody to be our buddy instead of doing what's right. You can't be everybody's buddy. It's about doing business. It's about doing business. And that's the problem right there. We want somebody that we think we can sit down to breakfast with, have a cup of coffee with. That's not the way to do business. Business is business. You don't have to have somebody you can go fishing with, eat breakfast with. It's about somebody that can get the ball rolling and helping you with where you trying to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your call. I had to push back on that. Most of the deals are made on the golf course. Most of the deals are made while hunting. My dad goes hunting with a bunch of supervisors and Congressman Thompson, all the time. And think about the deals that's being made, but I do encourage citizens to go have a cup of coffee with their councilman, with their mayor. Why not? Why not have a conversation? But don't just have a cup of coffee. Have an agenda. Have a reason. Be able to say, like we talked about earlier, you need to be able to list. This is what we want to happen in education. This is what we want to happen in housing. This is what we want to happen in economic development. This is what we want to happen in criminal justice, police reform. On all those different areas, you need to know what you want things to happen in your community. So if you don't know what you want to happen, how can you hold these elected officials accountable?
Let me give you a perfect example. This is something that I'm going to fight for until the day that I die, and it just makes perfectly good sense. Since all of my children are grown now, since my children were in elementary school, I used to wonder why so many parents drop their kids off at school. And then I know why now. You know why? Because they want their kids standing out in the rain, Doc, during the winter time. Okay? Now, wouldn't it be a very simple matter if you got the city and the local school board to partner up and have shelters in these neighborhoods? We know that there are some shelters downtown, but wouldn't it be a simple matter to get the city and the school board to have shelters so that our children would not have to stand in the wind and the rain at 6:30 in the morning? Man, when I'm going out for a business trip and I'm leaving home at 6 o'clock in the morning, I see kids standing by the apartment building.
Yeah.
I see kids standing on the street corner. I see kids standing right down the street from my house. Why aren't we asking the mayor and the city council to join with the school board and construct some $300 weather shelters all across the city so our kids wouldn't have to stand in the rain?
Or even, Doc, think about how you have the city, they have the little bus stops.
Right.
You can do a bigger bus stop where the overhead, where the rain won't get to the kids, where they can go in and wait for the bus. They can have those in each neighborhood.
Talking about, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's shelter. Why? How much would it take to lean on everybody that's going to be elected in 2021 and say, you need to build some bus stops for our children so they won't get wet? And you see it going, I see it when I'm leaving home in the morning, and the children and the parents who don't have to be at work at early, you see them parked one behind the other because they've got the kids sitting in the car waiting for the bus to pull up. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm knowing that this should be a city and school board, local municipal school board responsibility. But we've not done it because we don't have a list.
Hey, call you on the air. What's your question or comment? Please turn your radio down.
Let me speak to one that gets started.
Okay, you have to call back. All right, sorry about that. But give us a call, 601-948-5950. Again, if you want to join in on this conversation, the number is 601-948-5950. Where we left off, Doc?
Well, we were talking about that list. And everyone under the sound of my voice right now, they need to take some time between now and January 1 and make a list of 5 things that they want their city council and their mayor to address. Doc, one of the things that Corona did for us is we probably would have had that statewide convention that we wanted to have, because we talked this time last year about having a convention this time this year to start working toward municipal elections.
Right.
And of course, we couldn't do it simply because, logistically, it just wasn't going to work by Zoom call.
Right.
But the thing that we do, everybody that's listening to me now should make it up in their mind that they ought to have 5 things that they want their mayor and their city council to do. And I'm not talking about those things that they already should be doing, like fix the water pipe,
right,
and fix the water main. That's something that they ought to be doing anyway. Minority contracts, partnering up with the school board to get school bus stops for the children, making sure that there's more community policing. These are the kinds of things that every citizen under the sound of my voice right now needs to make a list of, and make that list find its way to anybody that's going to run for a city government.
And in addition to that list, I heard something last week and I thought it was the best idea in the world. And so people that's watching, do you all have a COVID plan?
Exactly.
Everybody needs a COVID plan. If you are single, married, whatever, what will happen if someone in your house tests positive for COVID? You need to know what you're going to do with the kids, who's going to stay where, who's going to be the caretaker. Everybody needs a COVID plan. So when COVID happens, if it happens, you won't be scrambling trying to figure out how you're going to handle this situation.
Yeah.
It's good to always be proactive. So in addition to those 5 items that you list, also have a COVID plan for yourself and your family. How you going to survive throughout this pandemic?
I 100% agree. I was just watching a documentary called Race to the Moon, when John Kennedy said in 1963 that we're going to put a man on the moon by 1969. And inside of that documentary, they talked about the nuclear blast alerts. When I was a kid, Doc, they used to have like fire drills where you would duck and cover. You would get up under the desk.
Yeah, we had those too.
Yeah, and you would and you would cover yourself as if it was in a nuclear blast. And that was the plan that folks. It was the only plan, but it was a plan. And you're exactly right. People need to have just like you have an exit plan for a fire in your house. You should have a COVID plan for how do you separate the house? Who goes into what room? How do we leave them their food? How do we consistently do all of these things in order to make sure that COVID doesn't spread throughout the whole house?
Exactly. You definitely need a COVID plan.
Yeah.
So we have some work to do. We definitely have to train people to take some of these positions that, aren't benefiting us. And like I said, we have more Black elected officials in the state of Mississippi than any other state. And so if we can figure out how to work together and get it right here in Mississippi, it could be a template for other cities. But we have to get it right here first.
Absolutely.
You mentioned explosion, and I just wanted to, just because it came across the news today, I felt some type of way when they put this Black man on TV being responsible for the Nashville explosion that happened on Christmas Day. Did you see that?
Did not. I did. This is my first time hearing that. I saw the name, but I had not seen any pictures. Are they saying it was a Black man?
How many Black people they're going to sign up to blow up some stuff? Blow themselves up with it?
Not one. Not one.
That ain't what we do. Now, if you would have said shot somebody over a pool game.
or 50% crap and
I just wanted to mention that, and our heart goes out to the people in Nashville that's cleaning up, and hopefully they find out what really happened. But I don't believe that is what happened.
Well, just like I said at the top of the show, we're being marginalized and blamed and cut out of everything else. I am not surprised that they're going to try to blame that on a Black man, but we just don't do things like that. We just simply don't. Where would a Black man get those kinds of explosives from?
Right. So we just definitely have to we have to change this whole system, this whole government, And I said when I was running for office that the government should look like the people they represent.
Right.
And I stand beside that. It's just like taxation without representation. You taxing me, but I don't have anybody who speak for me, who represent me. This is your opportunity to have somebody who speaks for you, who represents you. If you know someone that's out there that should run for office, that have some type of leadership capabilities, tell them about the municipal project. We want to help and educate, and we have brought in elected officials, people who were formerly elected officials that's going to educate and you'll be able to learn from people who made mistakes, and ask questions. So I'm really excited about this project. And I think that's the first step of us turning around things here in Mississippi.
Absolutely.
Got to be intentional.
Got to be intentional. And we cannot leave it. When I was in the Army, we had a brigade commander. And this particular brigade was recognized as one of the best brigades in the entire United States Army. And it was based on this colonel's basic philosophy, which was this: nothing just happens. Nothing just, you don't do it, it doesn't come by happenstance, it doesn't come by, you have to be intentional, and you have to do everything that you do intentionally. And I mean, you know, looking at the details, making sure that the plans are correct, checking and double checking, making sure that communication is right. Nothing just happens. You can't get to the end of a project and say, we sure did tough that one out and luck that one out. It's not going to be luck that gets you through.
Yeah, caller.
Intentionality.
Hey, caller, you on the air. What's your question or comment?
How y'all doing this evening? Look, enjoying the show.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you calling.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dr. J. You always do a good job here, Pastor Hub. But I was just listening here, and I remember one administration in the city of Jackson. They mentioned that their goal was to create like 25 millionaires, black millionaires. And they were going to do that through city contracting and things of that sort. I thought that was.
You said that was who goal?
It was one administration. I really don't want to call it name, but their goal was to create about 25 black millionaires, and they were going to do that through city contracting and things of that sort. And I thought that was an ambitious goal. I thought it was, you know, a good goal and one that was appropriate. And I just want to ask Pastor Hub, in regards to the municipal project, would those be some of the goals? Would those be some of the targets to create minority millionaires? And also, would you strategically look at certain municipalities that you want to push this municipal project in?
All right.
Pastor. Yes, sir. The idea, like I said, is going to be a statewide project, but we will probably center on about 35 or 40 fellows. What we're going to do is to offer fellowships to about 25 or 30 individuals in the initial class, and that's going to be about 15 or 20 cities across the state of Mississippi. So yes, we will strategically target the cities. Jackson would undoubtedly get about 7 or 8 or 9 of those fellowships, where Tupelo would only get about 3 or 4 of them, and we hope to do it proportionately. In answer to your middle question, I'm not particularly interested in making millionaires, because I'm not particularly interested in making anybody I'm not particularly interested in being myself, and I'm not interested in being a millionaire. I am interested in spreading $25 million into the Black community. I'm interested in assisting 25 individuals develop millionaire type businesses so that they can hire folk. I'm interested in assisting 25 people to open their own dry cleaners, to open their own shoe shops, to open their own services, to open their own cab lines are going out of business now with Uber, but to open their own businesses, their own good services businesses. And I'm interested in that, but I'm afraid that if we made 25 millionaires, we'd only be empowering folks, like I said, to go to the Bahamas, to spend $55 on a $19 bottle of champagne, and send a whole lot of air to 25 folks' heads. I know the intention sounds good, but here I am as a community activist already railing against millionaires. I'm railing against millionaires because millionaires are not spreading the wealth back into our community. So why would I make more folk that I need to rail against? That's not where I'm coming from. $25 million businesses, yes. But 25 millionaires, I'm really not interested in doing that.
We got another call. Hey, caller, you on the air. What's your question?
Hey, Doc, I had to call back to clarify that. Pastor Hubby definitely was speaking in terms of those dollars going back into the community. I, too, agree with you. Just to make 25 millionaires and they isolate the money to themselves, definitely the wrong goal and aim. That money has to be put back into the community, has to be shared with the community. So I'm with you there.
I got another call.
Not in isolation.
I feel you.
All right. Hey, caller, you on the air. What's your question or comment?
My question, maybe a question or not a comment. And we are talking about millionaires. Where are your zillionaires? The pharmaceuticals, and they're making a warfare thing like people over in Iraq and our United States military, buying military weapons. But where are your zillionaires? The pharmaceuticals are zillionaires. And million make zillion. And you talking about billion. And the pharmaceutical, who is the medicine side effect, heart attack or stroke. And where your zillionaires at? Jump up over million. And look where your zillionaires at. Pharmaceutical. The military warplanes sending our sons to war in America, soldiers fighting in Iraq. But if they're United States soldiers, why in the world are they fighting in Iraq? Where's the United States Army? And our soldiers here, and sitting over there buying billions and billion dollars air-powered and weapons.
Thank you so much, caller. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. We got 5 minutes left in the show. Your last words, Pastor Hub.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Carthan, for continuing this conversation on minority business contracts and economic development. That I as long as I'm, talking with you on this show every Sunday night, I think that needs to be, we need to put a different twist on that every week. So thank you for continuing that conversation going. Secondly, we will be, you and I will be sending out some information about the municipal project this week. We hope to start bringing people a little closer to the fireplace so that we can, get them warmed by the fire of our idea. And I'm just grateful to be a partner with you. Thank you so very much for, just allowing me to be a part of this. And I want to thank Socrates Garrett for just encouraging this dialogue, because he plays a large part in supporting it, and he plays a large part in it. But I'm having fun. I'm looking forward. I'm a little under the weather this week, but now that I got started, then I feel a whole lot better. It was like going to church for me tonight. Better. Some folks don't want to go to church, but once they get there, they feel better when they leave. So thank you.
Glad you're feeling better. Appreciate you so much. And we appreciate you all listening to BMA Radio Show. And I just want to recap some of the things that we talked about tonight. So I want you all to make a list of, Pastor said 5 things. I'm going to go with 7 because 7 is the number of completion. Make a list of 7 things that you want to see done or changed or improved in your community. Make a list of 7 things you want to see change in your community. The next thing we want you to do, have a COVID plan. If someone in your household tests positive for COVID, what is your plan? Have a plan for COVID. The next thing, we want you to tell someone about the municipal project. We know you talk a lot of people, you call people and tell other folks business. Call somebody and tell them about the municipal project. We invite you to join BMA. We have our monthly meetings on Zoom, the first Wednesday every month at 12 o'clock. And so we invite you to join us. We need your ideas. We need your leadership. Hey, we just some regular people out here trying to make changes in our community and to fight for contracts for Black businesses. a couple of the callers talked about money, talked about millionaires. Listen, we can have all the activists in our community. We can have all the smart people in our community, but you don't have people with resources and money to help fund something. You need millionaires in our community. You know what I'm saying? To help fund some of these things. So everybody plays a part in this game that we're doing. Everybody is important. So don't make someone feel like they are less important because they have money, they don't have money. Everybody brings something to the table. And I just want to remind people that we're not free until we are financially free. So we have to, a lot of us were taught not to talk about money, not to be about money, but it's going to take money to change things in our community. I'll take this last call. Hey, caller, you on the air. What's your question or comment?
Hello.
All righty. So again, we thank you all for tuning in to BMA Radio Show every Sunday at 7 o'clock. Thank you all so much for tuning in to BMA Radio Show. We will see you all next week, same time, same place.
God bless you, Doc.
No problem. See you next week. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Now a word from our sponsors.
When it comes to the best biosecurity and biosafety protocols to help your business thrive during these challenging times of face masks, viruses, and gloves, schools, businesses, sports arenas, hotels, and even churches are turning to America's top COVID-19 experts.
Providing is a solution that has the ability to change the way we fight COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Socrates Garrett, Chief Operating Officer for SRS Inc., the single source solution for biosecurity protocols. SRS will ensure that your business does not shut down.
What separates SRS from other companies? We understand that if you control your environment, you control the spread of COVID-19.
SRS, the one source solution.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.